Hey everybody, Bruce here with Traveling with Bruce. My video today is about something called an immunity passport. This could become the new standard for travelers around the world. Thank you for subscribing to my channel, Traveling with Bruce, and giving my video updates thumbs ups. I really do appreciate them. I love your comments and anything you think I should know. I love that when you send me that info. Also, thank you for joining my Facebook group page for Traveling with Bruce. A lot of us hang out there between these videos. And also, those of you now following us on Instagram, oh my gosh, 775 followers and climbing. It is getting kind of interesting. Today's story, the immunity passport. Is this going to happen? Apparently, Chile, the country of Chile, is going to start issuing immunity passports in a couple of days. And this passport is effectively going to be necessary for travelers domestically in Chile and internationally to prove to authorities upon arrival that when you arrive from point A to point B, that you do not have to go into a 14-day mandatory quarantine period. It also shows employers that you have been cleared by the health authorities, that with your immunity passport, you can go back to work, you can go shopping, you can buy gas. You're in effect stopped on the street by a police officer for being, just walking along in the park, whatever. You've got your passport with you. This clears you of either being arrested or fined, ticketed, and put into a mandatory quarantine. The question now is, will this go worldwide? If Chile enacts it and other countries follow suit, how long will it take for the CDC to demand all Americans and the Canadian authorities, demand all Canadians, the European authorities, all Europeans, to have an immunity passport? And how do you get one? How expensive is it? How arduous is it? And how effective is this going to be? Cruise lines may be required to insist that all travelers have immunity passports before they board a ship. They have to prove to every port that the cruise ship is visiting that all the passengers on board have immunity passports. This could literally take over the entire planet. From what I'm told, an immunity passport is issued once it's been confirmed that you have had the virus and you've recovered from it, because your bloodstream has what's called the antibodies to fight off the disease, that you've defeated it and that your body is able to repel it from you getting infected again. No guarantee that this actually works. It's so early in the game. The World Health Organization at the moment is not endorsing the program for an immunity passport. They're not convinced yet that just because you've had the virus that you won't have it a second time. But the thinking is, generally speaking, that once you've had it, the odds of you getting it again are very low, and if you do get it a second time, you would in effect get a much weaker version of it. But again, this is all pure speculation. There is no fact to this. The thing I wonder about is how do you do this? Do you go to your local passport office and wait in line, get your number called, an agent then interviews you behind a glass protective area, and then you go into a room and have your finger pricked for a bit of blood, and they do a test on the spot, and within 10-15 minutes they have the result. And upon the positive, or upon the negative result, I guess, the positive result that you have the antibodies, or however you want to say this, upon evidence that you've beaten this, you will then be issued either a brand new passport, or your existing passport will be stamped. I have to suspect it'll be a new passport because of forgeries. and you have to then wait, 3 days, 5 days, or a week before it gets mailed to you, or however you're going to get it, or you can come back and pick it up, I guess. How much is this going to run? Is this going to be like for example, in the United States or in Canada, are we going to have to pay like $150, $200 a person to get one of these things? Because without it, you're grounded. Without it, you are subject to arrest at any time by law authorities in another country, at least, or subject to a quarantine scenario. I mean, you're just not going anywhere. This could be unbelievably expensive. I have just a hunch, a deep hunch and a suspicion that governments will not pay the price for this. They'll pass it on to the taxpayer directly, because they'll say, well, if you want to go traveling, you pay for it. If you don't want to go traveling, then stay at home. I don't know. And here's the other thing I wonder about. Will a country like the United Kingdom accept an immunity passport from a traveler coming from another country? Now, I can see American passports and Canadian passports and European and UK passports, all these passports. I can see all of these being accepted without really any issue. Japan and Singapore. But what about a passport from, say, the Ukraine, or from Jordan, or from, I don't know, Pakistan, or a passport, from really, the third world? Are those just not going to be allowed? I mean, there's already, not top-notch, grade A passports out there that, allow a traveler to travel almost anywhere. I mean, of course, the G10 and G20 countries pretty well have, a real strong passport that allows them to travel to over 100 countries each. And then there are countries who have, passports that are, virtually useless. I mean, you can only go into 30 different countries, and none of those are G10 or 20 countries. In effect, you can travel the third world all you want, but you can't go to, say, America or Canada or UK. And then there's some in the middle. What's the deal with this testing? Is this testing going to be trusted by all governments around the world? Will America become very restrictive with respect to allowing people into its country, like, say, Mexico? Let's say they just don't allow Mexican passports with a Mexican immunity virus passport even to be allowed in. I mean, they could just shut off any country they want. Now, it's not like they can't do it now, but does an immunity passport still not guarantee you freedom of travel? And the other thing is, of course, you're on the street, you're on a holiday with a friend or husband or wife or family, and you're in a different country. You get stopped by local authorities because you're out at 6 in the evening, having just come from a restaurant. You're walking back to your hotel, and some local yokel cop pulls you over, or a couple of cops in a car stop and interview you on the spot. And the bottom line, it's a shakedown. They don't give a dang about your immunity passport. They want $100 US for you not to be arrested and inconvenienced, because they're going to claim whatever they want to claim, that your passport isn't real, or that you're faking, or that you're a criminal on the run. I mean, whatever excuse. No guarantee, I guess, against that either. I suppose it all depends on where you're traveling. But for cruise ship passengers, let's get back to the cruising game. This is a big deal. If cruise lines insist that for a cruise ship to leave Miami with 4,000 passengers on a 1-week Caribbean cruise, everyone has to have an immunity passport, no matter where you're from. It could well be that you don't even show the immunity passport at the pier. You have to provide proof that your passport is an immunity passport when you're booking your cruise. This could be a year in advance, 6 months, whenever it is you're thinking of going. So if you're thinking of going on a cruise in 2022 to a 7-day cruise that includes the Cayman Islands and Cozumel and what have you, you may have to provide a scanned version of your passport, or the passport number that is already in the system as registered as an immunity passport. And for all of us out there who've had new passports issued to us in the last, say, 3 years ago to now, that are anywhere from 5 to 10 years, valid for that time frame, what happens? Are those now thrown in the garbage and we have to get a brand new 10-year passport and cough up the bucks all over again and go through all the security crap, and now a blood test, and on it goes? And then what happens if, God forbid, the WHO and countries, who are insisting on these passports now say, "Oh, no, we've changed our mind. It doesn't matter. Those immunity passports are bogus because the test is bogus, or it's obvious that people can get the disease a second time, a third time. Forget about it." And this comes out a year or two from now, and millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of travelers have spent billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars to get these things, and to find out that they're all worthless as a piece of paper. How's that going to go over? And then what? What do we do now? Of course, the answer is ultimately a vaccine, and there's the next question I have for you. Will your passport be an immunity passport that shows that you had a test that not only are you carrying the antibodies and you had the vaccine, which again has to be approved by the World Health Organization and all governments, and all of that information is part of your passport now going forward? What happens now, like in, let's say, 6 months from now? You got your immunity passport, and then 3 months later the vaccine comes out, and they come back and say, now you got to get the vaccine. And you got to get a new passport all over again. And now you get another $200 passport. The first one was only good for 6 months. Now you get another one. You have no idea how good these things really are, how reliable these are. I really wonder about how this is going to go forward. There's so much uncertainty out there right now, so many questions. The cruise lines, of course, will do whatever they're told to do because they want to be back in business. The airlines are desperate to get back in business. The president of Delta, CEO of Delta, is in favor of immunity passports. He thinks this is a great idea because, again, airlines want 95% occupancy, not 5% occupancy. They're in it for the money. They're in it for survival. And whatever it takes to get people moving again is fine with them. What about checking into a hotel? You can't check into a Marriott or a Hilton or a Holiday Inn Express or a Motel 6 unless you can provide an immunity passport to the check-in guy or girl that are standing there behind the counter. These people are paid minimum wage by their franchisee owners. They have no say whether or not you can come in or not unless you provide an immunity passport. Is it coming to this? I really wonder. I'd love to get your thoughts on this, people. Send me your comments. Tell me what you think. Thanks again for supporting my channel and following me. I really do appreciate it. Stay warm, stay safe, stay healthy. We'll talk to you. Bye now.